Welcome to another amazing episode of the Halo Effect podcast. And I'm so excited to introduce to you the beautiful Shannon Dunn. And done and dusted as it may be, we have just begun this episode. And where I met Shannon was online, which has been where I've found a lot of these people on the episodes. And it's been this organic reach of having a bit of a conversation, getting to know a little bit about who Shannon is. But what really drew me to Shannon in the first place was this like burst of color, her big, juicy, gorgeous smile. And I've got her on the screen. If you're listening to this later on Spotify, I encourage you to have a look on the YouTube video as well, because you'll just see her as she is, just full of life, beautiful, big smile. And her background is as a long-time business coach, and she essentially helps ambitious women leverage their thrive factor and turn their wisdom into profit without hustle and overwhelm. So I'm sure I'm going to learn so much from you in this, because I know that one of my, away values that comes up when I'm feeling stressed is overwhelm. And there is so much out there at the moment that, we can be so distracted by. So Shannon, let's hear your beautiful voice. Let's hear your story as to why you do the work that you do, and explain to us all about what the Thrive Factor is.
Thank you, Lauren. In a nutshell, right? Because I could talk about this for weeks without taking a and that's it. When you found your life's work and your mission and the legacy you want to leave in the world, as I say to my clients all the time, that's how much you love it, that you could just keep talking about the same thing over and over and over again, and you're not going to get bored of it, and you don't care if people like, I've heard this before, you still want to keep showing up and doing that. So I'm so glad that we connected, and just by random connection, we happen to also be in the same part of the world. So for West Aussie sisters. But the why, goodness me, where do I start? There's so many things that often come up, and we were talking a little bit before we started this around how cool it is when you can just have an organic conversation and not this whole pre-practice, what am I going to say to the why question. But if I think back to being a little girl, which feels like such a long time ago now, that I very much was and always still am, a curious observer of people. Like, I'm fascinated by human beings and the way that we respond to the world and to each other. And I've always nerded out on anything to do with psychology and learning about human dynamics and, anything. A lot of my professional background includes lots of study in all those areas as well, and qualifications and all that nerdy kind of stuff, which when I tell you about the archetypes, which is what the Thrive Factor is, one of my archetypes explains why I'm like that. But this whole observation and really wanting to understand how people could be their best selves kind of thing. But I didn't know what that was when I was little. I was just like, why would they say that? Or why would they do that? Or why do people talk to themselves like that? These are the little questions going through my little head, whether it was kids at school or the adults in my life. And as I went through my early career, my first career, I was a registered nurse, so a long time ago. And people are like, how'd you go from that to business? But my family had all been small business owners. So I grew up in and around small business. Both my grandmothers were business owners. So I just knew that as a grown-up lady, you could be a business owner. I didn't question whether you could or not. Like a lot of young women, like, how could I do this? Because I had role models that did it, right? But I got to the point, so through the nursing, I did some psychology and counselling kind of study. So that was more formalising things. And then being out in the world, working in that profession, again, a whole new nerding out on observing people and their interesting responses and behaviours to certain things. So, it just kept morphing again and again and again, and did more study and more different things. And I have actually got counselling qualifications. I'm an art therapist. I've got a diploma in Jungian archetypal psychology, all different things. And the Thrive Factor is actually a framework of 12 archetypes that is specifically for women in business and leadership. And it gives us a sense of, not a sense, it's like a reliable knowing, drawing on ancient psychology, because archetypal psychology is back to the times of Plato, the old dudes that used to supposedly, hang out in ancient Greece and chat about all wisdom kind of things. That's how ancient the archetypal psychology is. And so these 12 individual archetypes give us a sense as women of who we are, of our strengths and of our potential challenges. The thing is that there are 12 of them. We'll have aspects of all 12 within us, but our own unique individual thrive factor could be 3, 4, 5, may even be 6 of those 12 archetypes. Because we are not just one thing. We're not like, okay, I'm going to tell you you're a inspirer believer and that's all you are. Like that's just the start of who you are and who you could be.
Yeah.
So why I do what I do is because I want women particularly to better understand themselves and to be able to confidently rely on the things that they know about themselves so that they don't have all this shitty stuff in the way that limits them, that stops them, that kind of stuff. And when we talk about the archetypes, there are strengths for each and there are also potential challenges, and the potential word is actually really key. So often we take on feedback from the world, from ourselves, that limits us, makes us feel less than, and all this kind of stuff. And so I didn't want to use the word challenges and have the negative connotation of challenges, because, you know, you say you and I have got 4 archetypes each and we have 2 the same. But the other 2 we have different. The 2 that we have the same could play out in our lives and our work differently because we have 2 different ones. So the challenges, you know, if we look at, I've got this all in a big chunky book.
Oh, we'll have to put that in the show notes as well to get amongst it. That is so cool.
Definitely. But in every chapter and for every archetype is quite a lot of detail in there. And we go through and, you know, if you were to read the challenges and go, oh, I'm going to have all these things happen or all these experiences, but you might not, because you may have another archetype that almost like cancels all of that out. So it's potential challenges.
And you have to be like, when people get so attached to pinning their life in a certain way, like, you know, it's all about the language, which I'm sure already hearing your story, I'm like, okay, it sounds like you're literally telling my story in a different way. And this is why we vibe with each other, but, you know, it's why we connect with other people in general. But yeah, when people get so attached to a concept that they're like, oh, or they're saying, I don't want this, that they actually manifest it because they put all of their energy and attention to that one particular thing, and they become that, because they're not actually concentrating on just existing and being and clearing away like the crap to just go, who am I, like away from everyone and away from everything.
Away from all these external influences and all the labels that I've given myself or I've taken on board because someone once told me this or said this, or I have heard someone say that to someone else about them, but I decided it must be for me. All of that kind of stuff. It just holds us back. And I don't want that to be, you know, I really do have, this is a legacy that I'm leaving in this world. I have a desire, a huge desire for women to be able to talk about themselves through their trifactor archetypes. So it's not giving their power away to the archetypes. Instead, it's just like we talk about, you know, you might connect with someone in like human design, such a trendy thing at the moment. And Myers-Briggs, you know, all the, your disc profile, like there's so many different things out there. But I want women to connect no matter where they are in the world at some point, maybe beyond my lifetime even, and they'll be like, you know, just talk archetype to archetype and they'll know that it's the trifactor archetypes they're talking about, not other archetypal frameworks. And because of the archetypes that someone shares that they have, that you know, friend or that connection or that woman they just met at a business networking event or, you know, whatever that context is, that other woman's going to go, oh my God, you're amazing, because I can see that you've got, you know, the archetypes you have, even if hers are completely different. They're going to see each other through their strengths, not through all the other stuff that we can often see. Yeah.
What I love about that, Shannon, is that you make a subtle point there of drawing on ancient wisdom. And what I love about this is that often all of this information isn't new. It's about the way that you've worded it, the way that you've put it into this Thrive Factor framework that is resonating with women's minds in particular, that you're drawing in as leaders. And this is why it's so important in business to really know what you're doing and why you're doing it, because the way that you deliver it, while the content may not be new, the way that you specifically have your leads and have your clients come to you is because of your energy, because of, you know, how you simplify things. It's an art.
You know, you can have, like, think about how many coaches there are in the world, variations of coach, you know. There is hundreds and thousands of women particularly calling themselves coaches these days. And if you know, as a consumer, that can be overwhelming, but it's not about going, okay, I need a business coach, or I need a health coach, or I need a mindset coach, and suddenly I've got 100 names given to me. It's about, but who energetically are you drawn to? Because if people are out there and they've been trained in certain frameworks or things, or they have experience, or lived and learned experience, they can bring some common things together. But as you just said, Lauren, your version, like the Lauren spark, like the Shannon spark, that is the bit that draws people in. This is how we connect with our ideal clients and create community, because people are just like, I want to know, I want to be in your space. Like it's something about you I want. And in each of the archetypes, not only going through their strengths and potential challenges, in the book I've broken down, and I include this in every program I teach, every coaching, interaction that I have with a client, no matter how long it is, the profiling and the archetypes come into everything. But what I've done is I've broken down more in depth what I call the 4 M's of momentum. So mindset, marketing, money, and magnetism for each archetype, so that you don't have to go, what do I need to do? Or what can I work on? Or what can I celebrate about me? It's not a guessing game, or a second guessing, or I don't know who I am. Like what's the ultimate question that everyone asks and spends their life trying to answer? Who am I? It's not that. It's like, this is who I am as a starting point. As I said before, like, I'm very clear to say that this is not a definitive black and white, this is all you are framework. I created this over a decade ago. It was 2010 I first started documenting it, and I've been using it in my work since then. This book, which is the second iteration of the Thrive Factor, came out in January 2019, and I still get new insights all the time. So it's an ever-evolving body of work. So yes, you never know who you could be.
Another beautiful reason why I'm just like, I love you and appreciate you, is that you're interested in evolving. And as humans, we're changing all the time, whether you like it or not. Just by product of life, you're changing and evolving. But if you can direct it in a way that's like purposeful, you're going to live a much more fulfilled life. And that's how I feel like I would define happiness and success, is like freedom and abundance in all areas of life. And that's what it means to me. Might mean something completely different to Shannon or the people watching or listening to this. And yeah, just the fact that, all of the insights that have come to you over the time, when I look at a lot of successful people, you're consistent with your message. While it, like, little insights might change along the way and you get better at refining it, like Shannon has been doing this over a decade and she's still vibing on her own work. She's still wanting to hold up her book and go like, read it. And what I think is really cool, which I haven't really heard often told a lot of the time, when we talk about what's my purpose, what's my why the hell am I here, is that you've given the framework from the beginning. And that's just, so many people are looking for that certainty and to grasp onto something of like, I can connect and identify with that. And I feel like that would be such a powerful thing.
It is. And, I have profiled 600-700 women personally.
Yeah.
I also have a certification program now, so under the banner of Thrive Factor School, where I train women to be Thrive Factor coaches so that they can profile other women and work with them in a coaching framework. So not just for business, I've got graduate profiler and coaches that work with women as healers, as guides, as mindset coaches, but not just about business. In fact, there's only one of the group of graduates who actually does business work. That's going to be a whole nother certification in the future. Actually, how do you use it specifically with business? But for now, it's, of all those women that I've profiled, like I can close my eyes, and I've got an archetype in my own profile called the visionary creator. So I literally have the ability to see. There's a very vision kind of driven, sight driven kind of gift in that archetype. But I can close my eyes and I can see the flash of all the faces of all the women I've profiled over all these years from all over the world. And I can hear the things that they've said to me. And a lot of the things that come back from feedback consistently over all this time is things like, I actually like myself. Or, I've seen tears come gently down a face, and and I will always, the therapist to me is very good at inquiring without making any judgment or meaning, and just say, what's going on? What can you tell me about that? And it'll be like, there's nothing wrong with me, or I'm not broken, or I don't need fixing, or that thing that I've been told all my life is a problem is actually one of my superpowers. Like this kind of stuff. You know, the other big word that comes up is like, I feel like I've got permission to be me and do what I actually have always wanted to do. It's like, yes, that's what thriving is, right?
Yes.
That kind of stuff. And I will never tire of that. And, you know, just listening to those words, if I ever have a moment or a time or whatever where I'm like, this is all too hard and my vision is so big and it's taken too long, which the visionary creator archetype can be very impatient. She can see what's possible, so she wants it to be reality now, and that's not always the case. Right. But any of those moments that I may have at any point in time, because we are all human and we have external influences and things going on, I just have to, you know, tune in and listen and hear one of those voices saying that to me. You know, because every life that is expanded, is given an opportunity to thrive, is a life that can also support others to do the same thing. And that's just how I see the world.
That is definition of your purpose, your individual purpose. It should be serving you, but it will be serving the benefit of the universe and your community, essentially, in whatever way that looks like. And I think, you know, comparing is it's that sick mind game that we play with ourselves. If we look at someone else thinking that, why aren't I there? It's like, hang on, we've got very separate purposes here. And if we were to like put it on a numbers game, maybe it looks a bit uneven, but if it was to come back to what the same goal is, it looks very equal. And this is where, you know, there's a big movement with a lot of women's stuff that's happening. It's not that, you know, men or women are better or worse than each other. We all have like the masculine and feminine energy, but it's actually coming back to what feels most congruent with me having like wanting to step more into the feminine energy while maybe existing in a like needing to step into my masculine energy for work. Like, how can I manage those both, or see what archetype is going on and not beat myself up for it? Because I would love to hear your process from like what that catalyst point was for you when you were able to lean into embracing yourself into it, because I'm sure it wasn't just like, oh, I came up with this book and I'm perfect and I'm in my 12 archetypes and, you know, I've nailed this.
I know. And people ask me, and I've had someone say to me, like, did you like download it? Like, did you channel it? And I'm like, well, not really, but maybe in some ways you could say that. I don't, you know, but yeah, as I said, like having nerded out on everything to do with human behavior most of my life. I was like in my teens reading about the work of Carl Jung. So he's often referred to as like the modern father of psychology and that kind of thing. And he did a lot of work with archetypes. So that fascinated me. So that's going back in my very early years. I spent a big chunk of my 20s living overseas and traveling, and I just enjoyed so much the ancient history that I was learning. And I found that archetypes, you know, characters, the statues of gods and goddesses in ancient Greece and Rome, all of that kind of stuff, they're archetypes, like they're archetypal energy. An archetype as a word goes back to sort of ancient times, and it comes from the root words arche and tupos, which means first impression. So it's about the impression that we give, the impression that we leave, or the imprint we leave in the world. And so in those times when Jung was doing a lot of his study about archetypes, he was looking to myth and story across culture and across time to to find representations to help us better understand, I should say. Like, well, what does it mean to be, if we say mother archetype, what does that mean? What does that look like? And so he found that story, in myth and story particularly, was very helpful for people to understand. Yeah. So so I've been doing reading and learning about this all my life. And then when I did my transpersonal art therapy studies in, goodness me, the mid 2005, 6, I was doing that. And it just kept coming up again. There was more work about archetypes. We did a whole module on archetypes. So I was completely in my element. Everyone thought I was a bit weird because I was like, I know all this, like, but I don't know all this. I know it, but I'm so excited to learn more and new stuff. So that was cool. And then, you know, in those were that was about the time frame that it was very early days of my business. I was still working in a corporate health setting, frustrated as so much about wanting to escape that kind of thing. And yeah, and you know, that was a long time ago now, like 12, 14, 15 years out of that now, completely, fully. It's possible, right? For anyone who's listening who feels the same, it is possible to get out of that. But in that time, I was here juggling the work and study and really going, this is just like I'm not fulfilling who I am.
Yeah.
And then as I did start to work with clients, and I've worked with men and women the whole time in my business, but my preference has been with women, and all the programs I do, 90% of the time have been for women, and women only. They're not been for both genders. But I started just to go, wait a second, there's patterns in the challenges that the women I was working with, no matter how old she was, her cultural background, her professional background, her education, her financial status, nothing. There was patterns in her behaviors, in the language she was using, the thoughts that she was sharing with me, the action she'd take or not take, the outcomes she was getting. I was like, wait a second, there's a whole lot of archetypes here. And I just, honestly, Lauren, I started documenting what I was seeing. And over the course of a few months, I was like, okay, I need to sit down with this and look at what I've been observing. At Nerdy, I want to like sticky beak into everyone's life. And I'm going to just see what's here. And I literally, within like a couple of days, I initially had 10 archetypes, and then very quickly it's like, no, there's 2 more. And those same 12 from back then, still the 12 that we have now. The names haven't changed. They've just evolved and deepened in my understanding of them. And so I didn't have the profiling kind of assessment thing sorted out back then, but it was not long after that I worked that out. But I just started talking to some of the women that were clients of mine at the time about the archetypes and what I was seeing in them. So rather than, say to someone, I think you could be an advocate rescuer, I'd listen to her language. An advocate rescuer, common archetype amongst women in the world, modern world. She's that friend you have that always says yes to everything. She's always helping. She's always volunteering. She's always giving her time, but to the detriment of her own well-being, right? So she'll volunteer, she'll do everything, she'll give everything away. From a business perspective, she would rather give you something for free than have the awkward conversation about what it's going to cost. Like that kind of thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Really common. When I was hearing the kind of things that were going on, I would say, well, maybe if you think about, and we talk about like a mindset thing, or we talk about a different kind of, practical way to do something in their lives and their businesses. And what I was doing was I was sharing their archetypes with them without having formalized the archetypes or given them away. And then, for them to know. And then, within that first year of defining the 12 of them, I also did the artwork. So the visionary creator archetype I mentioned before that I have is also an artist. So she is the artist.
Wow.
So they're cards. So this is own artwork from 2011, and all the
amazing. Awesome.
And then even just painting them, which was like an afternoon kind of session, crazy. That's how clear it was. I then got deeper insights into each of the archetypes based on the imagery that I'd put in the archetype that I hadn't even thought about. So it's come to me from somewhere, and I'm not going to question it. That's the advocate rescuer. She's like
Shannon,
the energy of the queen, the goddess of compassion.
Like with these archetypes, I would love for you to run through what the 12 are, but I don't want you to give too much of the information away, because I want people to be able to get your book as well and dive into that deeper, because it's not just a surface level thing. Like, it's always fun to go, oh, I'm this and I'm that, but then, they don't think any more of it. But it's so much deeper.
It is, Lauren. And, I have such an interesting, again, being in that observatory kind of place of when I have a conversation, like I do a lot of presentations, do podcasts, different things. As I said, I teach the archetypes in my own work. Yeah. And I'll have someone sit there say in an audience of an online thing or an in-person thing, and they've heard me talk about all 12 archetypes, and they'll go, I'm definitely decide. And we've got some sense of what we are. Trust me, we always get 1 or 2 wrong, because again, there's those shadow parts of ourselves that we're not fully aware of, or we don't want to own. Or they'll buy the book and they'll go, I've read it and I've worked out what I am. Trust me, the only way you can truly know is to actually do a profiling experience. Yeah. But it's a starting point to listen and to get the book, definitely. So for people that are not quite sure they want to make an investment, but just to think about, if you really want to know and you want to understand how it impacts or influences your life, then doing a profiling experience is the way to go. And with that, again, it's not just, okay, I've done that and I've had a 45-minute session with Shannon or a profile, one of the coaches out there, and I'm all good now. It is an ongoing learning thing. And, I've got a long-term client of mine at the moment who's actually one of my graduate coaches with the Thrive Factor. She uses it in her business. And she said to me, I think she had my first version of the book back in 2013. So she's been learning it for 8 years. And she said to me, I keep learning new stuff about myself all the time, and it's so cool. It's like that's what I want, is that inquiry, and that you're curious, inquisitive of who am I and what more can I learn about myself, because this is actually good stuff, and it's supporting me in who I want to be and who I am. So yeah, so lightning speed, 12 of them. I will go through very, 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 very quickly.
Before you do that, is with these 12 archetypes, is there like 6 paired with 6 to step into, like, just say no, they're all just on their own? It's not like there's a balancing one for each archetype? No, cool.
No, they are all individual. And when you look at anyone that has listened to us and or seen or watched and knows anything about archetypal work and the traditional psychology around it, there is the shadow and the light. And so as I said, I changed the strengths are light, shadow is potential challenges.
Love it.
So there's still the duality within each archetype, but no, they are standalone little ladies. Some of them have got similarities with other archetypes, but even within the similarity, they're very different and very unique personalities, which also I love, because as I said earlier, we are not one thing. We're not one label. We are a combination of different things. So it's very, very cool.
Take it away, Beauty.
I mentioned the Advocate Rescuer earlier, so I won't go into her too much, but as I said, she is the helper, the ultimate giver. Like, what can I do to help you? What can I, or that kind of thing. And with her name, Advocate Rescuer, she needs the biggest gift she can give herself, and therefore the world, is to learn the true meaning of self-advocacy. So being able to use her voice to speak up for what she wants and needs, and to expect that to be returned. With her desire to help, that trips into the rescuer, which is not always a healthy, happy, kind of harmonious relationship with the world, when she's trying to come in and do and take control and sort everybody out. She wants to be empowering, but she needs to learn that empowerment is leading by example, not doing for others. Yeah.
Can I buy that card and just ship it to every lady in the world? Just that one card.
I know. Not everyone has this archetype. This is not mine, but I see it. It's very common, very, very common. And the other aspect about this is that with the Advocate Rescuer, she has a huge desire to champion causes, and her causes may be related to people, to environment, to animals, or all three. So this is another way where she volunteers or donates time or money, or all different things like that as well. So it comes from a beautiful place. It's the archetype of compassion, but self-compassion is what she's really here to learn. Self-compassion and self-advocacy. So I'll go through them alphabetically, because I've got the cards here anyway. And then not that I forget anybody, but there's a couple in the early days that have visibility problems that, interestingly, I used to forget when I was introducing them. So the next one is the Heron Adventurer. So if any of these, Lauren, if these jump out to you as like, these sound like me, just let me know too. So the Heron Adventurer archetype is the nature lover. She is fierce, she's determined, she is ferocious, she just loves being in the world, adventuring. She can be seen by others as intensely competitive, because she wants to win, she wants to achieve. She doesn't necessarily see herself as competitive. It's just, and then very much this is the kind of thing when you talk to women with these archetypes, like, but that's just what I do, who I am. It is. But other women are not like you, right? So it's a good thing that we're different. But others can sometimes find the parts of us that are so strong in us and our personality. Other people can find that a bit hard to understand, because they don't have the same archetypes as we do. But the Heron Adventurer can be terrible at taking care of herself, because she's so about she gets blinkers. Anyone who's not watching this, I'm putting my hands up like blinkers on the side of my eyes. Like, when she's got a mission and a goal, nothing gets in the way of that. So everything goes out the window. Her relationships, her self-care, anything. The only thing that would get a look in is if she has animals in her life. They would still be taken care of. So this is a very big nature lover, animal lover. And getting out in nature, putting her feet in the earth or in water or something, is incredibly essential for a Heron Adventurer to be able to balance out that fierce, ferocious, determined kind of I've got to win thing. Heron Adventurers can be very good at abandoning things partway through if they've decided that they're not going to achieve at the level they wish to achieve.
That sounds amen like me, and it sounds very much like the fire element. And when I think of that title, I just think red, and I'm just like, burn, baby, burn. And this is burnout for, at different times. And that's why I love that you say like animals and nature. And that is something that allows me to put my feet back in the dirt, and water is my absolute ally. And, yeah, so for anybody else who's listening and thinking, gosh, that does sound like me as well, that intense energy. And yeah, I don't think I'm competitive in certain areas, but I know that people like you are something else. Like, and I'm sure you get that as well a lot, because we obviously vibe on that level.
Yeah, we go different archetypes that drive my kind of determination. But as I said, Heron Adventurer is the one of the 12 that's actually competitive. Like, it's a different energy.
Interesting.
A physical ability when she puts her mind to it, like an Olympian. Like, it's that, it's not just, I'm just going to go and play in the top team in my local netball competition. It's not, I want to play for the state or the country. Like, that's her desire and her drive. I've got a client at the moment, her sister has this archetype. She's in Australia, but her sister lives in Canada. And she said to me, my sister goes for a hike, but it's like, these mountain ranges in snow. She's like, I struggle to go for a walk on the beach, right? So they're sisters. And so she said to me, but knowing that about her sister has helped her to build a better relationship with her now. Like, they're in their 40s, 50s. She said, because now I get why she's been like that and why I felt inadequate, because I didn't want to go, hike the, like, whatever kind of thing. So yeah. Now the one archetype that I think you and I do have the same, that is definitely a part of the magnetic drive, is this one that actually does have flames and fire in it. This is the Inspirer Believer. Yeah.
I love that card. For those of you who aren't seeing this on the YouTube video, it's just a female lady in a yellow dress. I love yellow. It's got a big, beautiful heart where her heart would be. So it's slightly to the left of her chest, and her eyes are closed, and there's this beautiful fire painted behind her. And she looks lit up, but divinely peaceful. So I'm curious to see what is in this.
The flames ended up becoming a representation of the fiery energy that exists for the Inspirer Believer, but also the fact this is the one archetype more than any of the others that is very energetically driven. Yeah, we've all got energy, but this one's on a whole different scale. And when the Inspirer Believer is all about inspiring the world and being inspirational and loving all the inspiration that's flinging around everywhere, like we love Instagram and Facebook, because there's all these cool things to share with everybody. When we're doing that and it's all this externally focused, we can burn ourselves out. Yeah, because it's like give the cheerleader archetype. She is an incredible potentialist, so we see the gift in others, and we have a huge desire for them to see it and embody it in themselves. And when they don't, we can feel very frustrated, very overwhelmed, and also we can get another energy level of burning out, because we've given so much to help someone else see their good or see their potential and that kind of thing. So a lot of coaches have this archetype. A lot of coaches burn themselves out with all of that they give to their clients, and coaches, counselors, mentors, and women who are supporting others tend to often have this archetype in a different kind of a way than, so it's got a slight little link to the advocate rescue in that whole, don't want to rescue in the same way that an advocate rescuer often falls into a trap of, but we persist with tenacity when we can see someone's potential and we want them to see it. So again, giving too much, trying to do it for them, trying to help them see it, trying to, that kind of thing. And it doesn't end up working so well. Because when an Inspirer Believer is burnt out, she falls into a space of what I call the mojo-less moments. And those moments can be a moment to a day, to a week, to months on end, where you just feel like, what's the point? It's the hopeless, helpless, why bother? I don't know why I'm even doing this. There's no, and we can't see that just yesterday we had like the biggest contract we ever earned, or we had a huge, big win with a client, or, something amazing happened in our life or our work, or no, that was yesterday. Today, I just want to give it all away. And it's extreme with its energy. So it's an intense archetype, very much an instinctive archetype as well, but we've got to look after our energy. The way that not looking after our energy manifests, it's beyond just feeling tired and burnt out. It can end up, and I've had this feedback from so many Inspirer Believers, chronic fatigue syndrome, any kinds of, physical ailments that are energetically driven, very common with any woman that has this archetype. So look after your energy, ladies. Rest, something I had to learn the hard way.
It's so hard, and rest is a mental construct that you have to get over, that it's not being lazy. It's not doing anything. It's like resting is giving you more energy to do what you can do. Like
rest is an activity. Like resting is an activity.
100%. I love that. Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You're awesome.
So
keep
let's
going.
Number 4. This is the Liberator Engineer. So yeah, the image on here, we've got a woman peeking out from behind a wall, big sun in the background. And she's sort of got a bit of a darkness to her to a point. So the Liberator Engineer, she's all about freedom. This is a freedom weaver. Yeah, she's also a solution creator. So the engineering part of this Liberator Engineer archetype, this is one of my 4, is that we have an incredible ability to build solutions that create freedom for others and for ourselves, but we forget to do it with ourselves. And so, through craving freedom, we're like, yeah, we're making sure everyone else is okay. And like, we can go from that fine line of feeling really free and expansive and spacious to, I've literally just like built a wall around and trapped myself into whatever it is, whether it's our work or our life, our relationships, our beliefs, our mindset, whatever. It can happen with everything for the Liberator Engineer. But this is a very quick archetype in terms of intellectual capability. She picks up things really quickly. She has a gift for seeing the big picture and understanding all the moving parts. So this is like the engineer. Like, what's the, the end result, but what are all the fine bits that need to go into something? Yeah. So she tends to like to systemize things. She can be very analytical. She likes to understand how things work. She likes to build things. So the word build is often a word that you'll find a Liberator Engineer will use. They'll say, like, I'm just building something, and that's what it means. They're actually literally feel like they're building something, like putting all the blocks together to create something. Tetris. It's an archetype. It's an archetype that on the outside looks like she's sort of got her all her shit together, if you like. She often comes across as being really cool and calm and collected, but she's got a deep intensity of emotion going on inside. And if she doesn't find ways to release that intensity, she can end up either imploding and again get sick of all sorts of different physical ailments, or she will explode as a release to just let off steam. And I say that it's not just like exploding and going, oh, I'm having a bit of a moment. It's like a volcano. That's usually only happens to people in their immediate environment. Yeah. So our nearest and dearest get to see that and can often go, what is going on? Because you look like you're all good. And then, but we haven't taken care of all that building up kind of stuff. Yeah. I've known this from my, if I look back to my early childhood memories, I can see this archetype. I don't have kids of my own, but I've got 3 nieces and a nephew, and in 2 of my nieces, I know they've got this archetype. One of them's 4, the other one's 14, but just in the way that they have approached the world and they're, explosive, like need to let off steam kind of, and how frustrated they get. It's an archetype when she's not making sense of things, gets really frustrated. So yeah. Very cool. So she's a bit like, lots of big energy in that one for sure. But in a different kind of way.
How amazing is like having power through having knowledge, and not power in like sitting on a throne and going, yes, like I'm so powerful, but just going, I understand why this is happening. And it doesn't mean accepting yourself, oh, this is just how it is, or that's just Sally, that's just how she is. It's like, no, there are certain things that we are predisposed to, and it doesn't mean that we can't change or we don't step into them at different areas of our life. But like, you were giving that sister example before. So for people listening, certain people in your life that you're close to may just actually act a certain way, and that will lead them to their freedom and their liberation. And that might be in like a crazy intense way that seems crazy to you because you don't have that similar archetype. You don't share that. So it's a different language that you're trying to communicate through.
I have profiled, as I said, this is mostly for women, but I have profiled younger women from about 14, 15, depending on their maturity and who the request has come from. But it's been mostly daughters of my clients that have like, they're finally old enough to get the profile because I can understand how to parent them better. But my elder niece is now 16 and a half. And so she's done her profile with me. Ruby is a Heron Adventurer that I talked about before. And she had the Mediator Diplomat archetype, which I'm just going to talk about now, and the Inspirer Believer, and her little sister who's like, yep, okay, these school holidays, I'm all ready now. I'm 14, I'm nearly 15, I want to know now. But it's funny, I take them to school every Monday, so it's a bit of auntie time. We have conversations and the archetypes come up, and Ruby's been more curious this year than ever to understand different parts of her relationships with her friends and why she does certain things. I love the little parrot, her little sister in the back seat, you know, saying, I told you Auntie Shannon would tell you which one of your archetypes it was. But we've got that language that we can use that. And again, she now knows that that's part of herself. And like with her Heron Adventurer, a fierce determination to win. And if she's not, she just wants to like, well, I'm just going to give it up. And so now understanding that, you know, and this archetype, the mediator diplomat, which is she's all about balance. On the image, there's scales, there's night and day, there's black and white. With this archetype, it's all about truth, fairness, justice, equality, balance in the world, harmony in the world. And so Ruby said to me a few weeks ago, Lauren, she's like, why am I always trying to fix people? And she doesn't have the advocate rescuer. She's just trying to make sure there's harmony in all her friendship group. And I was like, remember that? And she's like, oh, that one, you know. So, but the difference in a young woman being able to have that knowledge of who she is.
Yeah.
And even last year talking with her about selections for subjects for year 11 and year 12 and what she might want to do after high school, she's on a path to do things that she has the archetypes for, right?
You're an awesome auntie. Like, God, I wish I was my own auntie when I was that young. Come on, man.
Yeah, no. I needed someone like me too. Yeah. But then mediator diplomat, she's all about truth and fairness and justice. I'd call her the truth teller. She's got incredible listening skills and she often finds herself stuck in the middle. You know, mediator diplomat, there's clues in their names as to what they're all about. Yeah. And it's that people come to mediator diplomats because they know that you will give them an ear, you'll support them. But there's an interesting dynamic with the mediator diplomat is that you can see both sides. So it's not about it's this and you get on board with someone who's like, I just want you to support me for what I'm got going on right now. And they want to have a rant or whatever. You're like, but what about this? Like, and some people will like that. Some people will be really annoyed at you for it.
Right.
Yeah. But it is about you using your skills to create harmony for yourself, for you to create balance or blending the things that are important to you, for you to understand that if something doesn't feel truthful, if it doesn't feel fair, doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel just, you take action, whether it's for you or somebody else. Yeah. So while the advocate rescue wants to jump in and fix things, the mediator diplomat it's driven in a very different kind of a way. Yeah. But so she's often has getting things that she wants to champion in the world. She'll have something that through her work or business or her life, she will like, we need to make sure that this is understood. And, you know, it's a very practical matter of fact archetype. There's not much emotion with this archetype, where some of the others are hugely emotive. This one, not so much. Very practical, very sensible. Let's just get on with it. Why do we need to have conversations again and again? We've talked about it once. Why can't we just move on? That kind of energy.
I love her.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Sometimes she gets a bit of a bad rap though with some women that have her, because they're like, that practical side, like feel like it takes the wind out of like my inspirer believer wanting to be all excitable and, you know, a big cheerleader kind of thing. And then the media diplomat comes in and goes, do we really need to go that far and be that fancy or that over the top? Yeah,
just
so
get the work done.
Yeah, she's been dubbed the fun killer by some women in my community, which I think is quite funny. We need all of these archetypes in the world so that we can have this beautiful blend.
We can give her a fun hat.
Yeah, exactly. The mentor teacher is the next one. So this is with a figure with books on her head and sort of like a blackboard in the background. This is the gatherer or the seeker and gatherer of wisdom and knowledge. So it's as a mentor teacher, this is an archetype that is here as the conduit for knowledge in the world. And this is one of my 4 archetypes. We take knowledge in and we're here to share it. It's not about just hoarding it and going, oh, cool, this is good, I'm learning more and more and more. We are here to share it with the world. You know, we're the ones that push all the knowledge and wisdom and experience out into the world. So mentor teachers are always signing up for some new learning experience. They're always wanting to do a new program, a course, and experience something. But it's not about like formal qualifications for a mentor teacher. We like those, but we also love the lessons that life has to offer us. And those life lessons are as rich and important as the lessons from a more formal kind of setting. Yeah, this is an archetype, is an amazing guide for transformation and transition for people as well. So again, a lot of coaches have this archetype, a lot of coaches that end up turning their knowledge into products and programs and courses and that kind of thing, they'll probably have the mentor teacher. And this is one archetype, right? When I'm working with one of my clients, the business women I work with, I'm like, if you have the mentor teacher archetype, you really need to package what you know into something and make that part of your business model. Yeah, you know, I'm not usually you really should do this kind of thing, but this is one that's like you're wasting a huge opportunity if you don't. You know, you're here to do that kind of thing. So, you know, I love my mentor teacher, but at the same time, the overabundance of what she knows and her desire to find out more can be a challenge at times. And when a mentor teacher is not feeling confident in her knowledge and mistrusting her innate wisdom that she came to the world with, not the stuff she's then gone on to learn, she can get to a point where she's like, oh no, I can't do this because I need to go and get that qualification, or I need to go and do this, or second guess herself. Or she will try and over deliver too much information, trying to prove that she knows something and she's got worth and value to offer. Yeah, so something to be very mindful of. You know?
And you'll always find more courses to do. I definitely know I have her within me as well, because I'm so interested in like life lessons and doing so many things, but you can be learning the exact same lessons from all of the stuff you probably could teach the things that you're going to do a course in, versus like, oh no, that one looks pretty and that one sounds fun and that one's the one that I need to do for now. It's like, actually, like you said, there wouldn't be many that you're like, you need to do this, but I know that I need to hear, you need to just stop, you need to put the books down and actually start implementing. And
exactly. Implementation is incredibly important. There's another interesting dynamic that shows up for the mentor teacher, where she may be sitting in a virtual or a real classroom kind of environment doing some sort of learning, whether it's a craft workshop on the weekend, or a postgraduate degree, but sit there and go, I already know this, because she probably has done it before. And then what happens though is that she will abandon her experience or her study, or decide she knows it. So there's a little bit of arrogance and ego can come in with this archetype as well. And that's not great, because what that means is that she doesn't implement, because she never fully finishes anything.
Right.
Can waste a lot of time and money doing that kind of stuff. So yes, go back to this is, and understand what wisdom actually is. It's what you already know, not the learning kind of stuff. So when I talk with my clients, who majority of them have this archetype, so like from a brand perspective, I know what language to use and how to connect, because I know the core archetypes of the majority of the women I work with. There is 2 or 3 consistently show up, occasionally a 4th one, depending on the program or the thing I'm doing. But I talk about them and I was like, okay, your wisdom is what you know, what you came to this earth knowing. So then there is, on top of that, there is the lived and learned experience, your expertise. They're different layers of you deepening your wisdom, but that's not where what you know as a mentor teacher started. So I'm going to get very passionate about own your wisdom. Saying it to myself.
Exactly. We say what we need to hear.
All right. We're halfway through, so I'm going to try and keep going with this one. So the mother nurturer is the one that we have next. So very sort of a loving looking woman holding what could be an infant. So the mother nurturer archetype, this is the ultimate caregiver. She is all about family. She wants to have her own children or to birth things. So not every mother nurturer ends up having her own children that she's birthed, but she will be like that, like the fairy godmother kind of energy that's everyone's mum, but though women that have this archetype, they're like, what I described them today in a training I did earlier today with some of my clients. It's like she's that palpable hug in a room. Like you just feel loved and nurtured when she's around. My mum has this archetype, but being a very independent, by my archetypes, very independent daughter of hers, I often felt very smothered, because sometimes there's a fine line between mothering and supporting and being, wanting to empower your offspring or your family, both real and perceived family, and just going too much because but I just want to be with you and I just want to make sure you're okay. It's like, just let me breathe kind of thing. So it comes from a good place, but there's a fine line between being the mother and being the smother. So mother nurturer, you often struggle with that. From a work and business perspective, they will often abandon the things that they were doing because there is a real or perceived desire or call for help from a real or perceived family member. So it's like, but they might need me. I can't do it that week because someone might need me that week. That kind of an energy. So they're good at self-sabotaging on all levels in their life. It's all about everything else. And again, back to my nieces, I was talking to them just with the school drop-off kind of thing, and said something about whether or not my mum, being their grandmother, was going to pick them up. And the younger one says to me, of course she will, Auntie Shannon, because, it's us, it's her grandkids. It's like, yeah, she'll drop everything if anyone, right? But beautiful. But self-care, calling it self-care, they've got to really look at that gift of nurture and nurturing self so they can be a better, more abundant, loving, generous kind of woman that they desire to be. When a mother nurturer and the advocate rescuer are not taking care of themselves and not looking after those aspects of who they are, they can often get a bit martyrish and a bit like, oh, no one acknowledged me and that kind of thing, which they'd feel terrible about. It's not so good for everyone else either. So, yeah. All right, moving on. The networker connector. So, yeah, there's a very expansive kind of woman here, and stars, circles, all sorts of stuff going on. The networker connector is the social butterfly that we all know, the friend that we have who knows everybody, the friend that we go to because we want to, do you know us such and such, or do you know this person? That friend knows that person or knows the person who knows that person. That's a networker connector. She has an incredible gift for connecting people. Like she'll walk into a room and she'll like scan and go, well, who's here? Who do I know? Who don't I know? And just make introductions happen. Yeah. So she has a huge network. She will generously share that with the people that ask her to. What she's often terrible at is actually making the most of that network for herself. So she's like, the awkwardness of, I could never ask for help. There might be someone that she actually could really benefit from some support, but I'm not going to ask them because, no, I couldn't do that. And yet she's, introduced that person to 10 people and they, done business together or something, that kind of thing. Networker connector can often be really challenged when it comes to self-connection because she so craves human connection that self-connection and being solo is very foreign to her. But her connection on a bigger scale with others will be greater and deeper and more reliable, more trustworthy, more respected and honoured in a two-way kind of arrangement when she can connect to self first. So that's the networker connector. All right, we've got 4 more. Okay. The pioneer seeker is the next one. It's a woman here and there's like a path in the background, and in her heart there are coins. That's what they're supposed to look at, these little yellow discs. And that's significant. The treasure that she has within her. Every archetype's got its own treasure, but the pioneer seeker is that she is the innovator. She is the disruptor of the world, pioneering, just like it sounds. She wants to do things first. She wants to carve a way out there and do things in an original fashion, but she's also on a mission seeking her place in the world and seeking to work out what she's here to do on a different kind of a level to the other archetypes. And the whole message around the pioneer seeker, or the gift that she can give herself, is understanding that her treasure is already within. She doesn't need to go externally for it. It is within you, ladies. And, so often I work with pioneer seekers and they'll be like, no, I don't do this. And I was like, and I just literally will hold the card up or say to them, remember what's inside? Remember, like, do we need to go and do that extra thing or do that? And, if they've also got the mentor teacher archetype, not so good, because what it looks like is, but I need to go and learn something more. No, you don't need to learn any more about yourself. You've got it within you. Yeah. Right. This is an archetype that has a really cheeky, playful kind of side as well. So there is an archetype I'm going to talk about next called the Queen Ruler, but this archetype has got a queen kind of element to it, but it's the queen of the underworld. So it's the queen of the, these are the women that have relationships with the bad boys or the bad girls, if they're, depending on where they go. But, they like things that are a bit naughty, a bit unusual. They often come across quite innocent and sweet, but there's this whole other side to them. Yeah. They get bored very easily. And this is where the disruptor thing can kick in as well. Like, if I imagine like a classroom kind of work environment, this is that person that will say the inappropriate thing. To say the thing that often taken very, very by the more sensitive archetypes, like the mother nurturers and the advocate rescuers, like, I can't believe she just said that out loud.
There's children in the room and you're like, oh, well.
I know. And the pioneer seekers love it because they just want to break the ice. Anything that feels boring or mundane, like, I just need to change this up. Like, they can't go with it at all. Yeah. So it's a very interesting archetype. Yeah, but she's also very good at disrupting for the sake of disrupting and not as a deflection, because this is an archetype with one of her fears is around, I'm not good enough, on a different level to the other archetypes, like the mental teachers, I don't know enough kind of thing. This is, I'm not good enough. The self-value can be a challenge. So if there's anything where it looks like that might show up, she'll just say something to deflect the attention elsewhere. Or, interesting enough, what it does, it draws the attention to her, but she's changed this type of attention.
Yep.
So people forget they may have been asking her a question or wanting her to do something or wanting her to contribute because she just completely flipped it around. So fascinating to have in a learning environment.
Oh, I'm learning so much. I'm like, I need this book to just like look at these things and observe them, because I'm a people observer as well. And I know that all I'm hearing from this is pattern. And the world is made up of that. And you've done such a beautiful way curating some way of explaining this. So yeah, keep smashing through. You're nailing it. I love it.
Thank you. All right, so we've got 3 more to go. So the Queen Ruler is up next. There's the lady with the crown. There's gems. There's lots of faces in the background. This is the ultimate in leadership and compassionate leadership. So there's a little message underneath that image that says rulership with generous compassion. She leads from the heart. Yeah, and that's not to say that Queen Ruler doesn't also feel very overwhelmed about her potential for leadership. And I have worked with Queen Rulers as clients and have a lot of, interestingly, a lot of friends who are Queen Rulers, and they're either like, yeah, I get the leadership thing, and yes, I want to like build an empire, like this massive kind of thing, or they're like, oh, that feels very awkward, or I'm not sure how I would do that. And so that'll be influence coming from their other archetypes as to how much they go, yes, I know, I get that for me, or I'm not sure about that. But deep down, they really do want it. Yeah. They respect loyalty. They want to have people around them that they can trust. They like to have like the inner sanctum of trusted friends. Often Queen Rulers have friends who are mediator diplomats, because the mediator diplomats keep them honest if their ego is in check as well. Because the Queen Rulers can be very ego-driven at different times. You know, it's like, I know I'm special. Like, I'm here to be important in the world. This is the kind of energy that some Queen Rulers can have. They love the VIP experience. They will upgrade everything. They want to live an opulent, luxurious life. If they don't have the money to do that, they can feel really, really disgruntled and really like, you know, it's like identity crisis. But I know I'm meant for something special, but I don't have the funds or, you know, that kind of thing to do that.
Yeah.
But they can be incredibly philanthropic. They love to give back. They love to support. I've got a very dear friend who's an advocate rescuer Queen Ruler, and I call her the Queen of Compassion. And she, you know, is, 10 boards and this kind of stuff, always giving back, always doing some kind of things. But she's not just on the board. She's like the chair of the board, like, you know, the leadership kind of stuff. Yeah. So their home is important to them. They have a real eye for design and they love beauty. I always say Queen Rulers are here to bring beauty to the world. So they often are attracted to professions like, you know, they can often be in professions to do with property, with renovation, with design, incredible kind of stuff. So, yeah, but they don't always find that stepping into their huge potential as comfortable as maybe they would like to. Okay. Second last one, and definitely not the least too, but the Shapeshifter Alchemist. This is a woman here. She's got a cape and a mask on. Lots of energy behind her, lots of colour. Yeah. So this is the mystical, with Shapeshifter Alchemist gives you clues to her name, but the Shapeshifter element is that she's a versatile, she loves variety, she needs variety, she can adapt who she is and what she is, but often to the point that she becomes lost in the world on a whole different way to some of the other archetypes, because she's like the chameleon. She can literally step into another person's shoes and become like that individual. And so it's there for the, but I don't know who I am today kind of thing, or who shall I be today? Like what, some have like different wardrobes depending on which friendship group they're hanging out with for the day. Like it can be that extreme. Yeah. But she does need variety in her life. But at the same time, work on understanding her sense of self. She can sometimes feel quite ungrounded and quite like she's just not really sure where she is and sort of be a bit wafty around in the world. And the way for a Shapeshifter Alchemist to ground is to welcome magic into her day. So I will always say to a Shapeshifter Alchemist, whatever makes you feel magic or magical, do that. Like I'm never going to preface and say it's, having this or doing that. Whatever makes you feel magical, do more of that. Will ground you, remind you of your mystical ways. It's an archetype that's often very elusive, very, and I said, mystical, and people are a bit like, I don't really know who she is. Yeah. And Shapeshifter was like, good, I don't want you to know kind of thing. So they often can glorify that kind of, I don't really know, I don't really, it's good that people don't really know who I am, but from a business and work perspective, we need to be more grounded. So use our other archetypes to ground ourselves. Yeah.
And I feel like would it in that level as well there, because I feel like with all of these, we get drawn to elements of all of them that we're like, oh, I'm a little bit of that. And it maybe not so much the shadow side, but we go, oh, like I like that bit and I'll take that. But with her, I sense that, you know, feeling of potential loneliness. While some people might not know exactly who she is and what she does, there is a sense of longing for people to know that as well. Like to go, oh, I kind of do want them.
Yeah. It's an internal dichotomy, and that where that's coming from is the fact she has other archetypes.
Yeah.
And she may have the say she's got 4 or 5. So Shapeshifter Alchemists tend to have more archetypes.
Yeah.
No surprise, because it's a chameleon. And you know, anyone who just gets the book and reads that in the chapter for the Shapeshifter Alchemist, it says, if you've read the book and you think you've got all 12, you've got this one kind of thing, right? It's like, hey, this is me. And it's an archetype that others that don't have it are often really drawn to, because they're like, oh, she's intriguing, she's interesting. I wish I had her. And it's the alchemist part is that it's the master manifester. Yeah. So that's the thing that often creates an archetype envy when someone doesn't have this in a room or in a group, and they're like, but I want that one. I want to be able to manifest. Like, we can all manifest, but this one, it's like lightning speed. So I will always say to Shapeshifter Alchemists, be really considered about what you're thinking, saying, feeling, and doing, because your thoughts, words, feelings, and actions will become your reality instantly, both the good stuff and the not so good stuff. So 100%. A lot of Shapeshifter Alchemists will then say, I hate this archetype because all I've had is manifesting crappy experiences in my life. It's like, yeah, but you can turn that around. Like, and they look at me like I've got some foreign, like 2 heads all of a sudden. I was like, no, this is good. Like, because you understand how quickly you can do that. So let's, again, focus on shifting your mindset, your thoughts, your feelings, your words, that kind of stuff, so you can have the other experience.
Yes.
Be trapped in, no, I don't like this part of me. But visibility can be a big challenge for this archetype. So, you know, from a business kind of brand perspective, it can be, yeah, here I am. And then like, no, I'm not going to let you see me for the next 5 weeks because I'm not really sure. I'm here, no, I'm not. I'm here, no, I'm not. So use your other archetypes to help you to be more visible and present, right?
Yes.
So, yes. Let your magic out in the world. People want it.
Oh, I love that for magic, like, because it's so open to interpretation and it's not a woo-woo thing. It's like your magic could be having your cup of coffee in the morning, sitting under a tree or in your favorite chair. And I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And as I said, Lauren, like I always say to a Shapeshifter, because, you know, you work out what magic means to you. And sometimes, depending on their other archetypes, if they also have the mediator diplomat, they'll go, you know, because the practical side of the media goes like, magic? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, you know what it means. Like, don't overthink it. Don't try and make it something it's not. But equally, there are Shapeshifter Alchemists that I know and have worked with that are like, awesome, I'm going to go and buy a magic wand, or I want to get a cape. Yes. Like, they actually that kind of thing. Or like, oh, and this gives me permission to go and buy more crystals. Or like, I don't know, whatever works for you, sister, you go and do that. Like, if it's supporting you to feel more magic in your day, then your Shapeshifter Alchemist is going to be happier and she's going to be able to be more visible. And that's what is important. So whatever you do. Yeah. And then the very last one is this visionary creator. So she's got lots of artistic kind of things in the background, a big eye, she can see. There's a little owl in the bottom there. You can see that there. The little for the yeah. The visionary creator is the last of my 4 archetypes. A very rare archetype. I would say that of the 600-700 women that I've profiled, I've probably profiled about 15, maybe visionary creators.
Yep.
So it's quite a rare archetype. They are finding that from Is and Me. It's an archetype because it's quite rare, can feel quite uncertain about her, I guess, like her superpowers, if you like. So the visionary aspect is that she has an ability to see what's possible, and a real trust in the knowing. But sometimes that trust can be eroded away because she's got, the visionary also big, grand ideas. Like I told you about my vision for, and I talk about it beyond my lifetime. That's a visionary creator talking. Other people are like, it'd be really cool if I just did this year. Like, no, I'm like talking about like
legacy,
my physical life, legacy kind of stuff. My business manager always talks, and she's like, we're going intergalactic with a Thrive Factor. It's not just about, in this immediate kind of world, we're going intergalactic. It's like that kind of level. But of course, when we share the visions that we have, the dreams that we have, the aspirations we have on that sort of very large scale, there's so many others in the world that are like, oh, that's crazy. You couldn't do that. Like, no, that's never going to happen. So there can be from when we're really little where we have less of the external world telling us we can't share that stuff, but we share it more, you know, innately. It's more of a compulsive kind of, I can't help but tell everyone what I want to do and what I can see and what I feel. And then we'll have someone in the world start telling us that that's not possible. And this is where we can mistrust our knowing and mistrust our vision. It's not a good thing for a visionary creator, because a visionary creator is here to be the conduit to help others bring their future to the present. Yeah? So it's, you know, when I sit with a client and people say to me, is it like you're a clairvoyant? I'm like, no, it's not like that at all. But if I get a really strong sense about what's possible for someone, and this is also backed by the potentialist aspect of my inspire believer, I'll share it with them. Like, I have no problems holding it back. In fact, I think that it's a power play if I do hold it back. But I'm also mindful that my vision for them, what I just saw or got a really strong sense of, could be like, you know, decades away. So it's, I share it with them, and then I go, okay, now let's bring that back to now though. Let's talk about that and what you can do to support yourself now, because this is possible what could happen for you in your future. Yeah.
Yep.
So that I don't overwhelm people who just go into a freak out when I go, look at what's possible for you. And they're like, you know, suddenly can't. And like, no, you just said that, you know, and like, no, I didn't say it. I don't, you know, share my words just for the sake of it. Definitely not. The creator part of it is the ability to take action on the things that she can see and she knows is possible. And it's also the artistic archetype. So this is, I always say to visionary creators and remind myself that exactly as I'm saying it every single time, the more we express ourselves creatively in whatever that is for us, could be gardening, could be conversations, it could be actual artistic kind of stuff. Like for me, I paint and draw and write. You know, the more we do that, the more we can ground in our vision and trust in our knowing. Yeah. It's a very strategic archetype, a very, very naturally entrepreneurial archetype. As I said, yeah, she's got big pictures about stuff. And she also, not in the same way that the Shapeshifter Alchemist, but she does have the manifesting ability in terms of like seeing the vision, trusting in the vision, and then knowing how to do the stuff to bring it to life. So there you go, all 12 archetypes.
Thank you for sharing them, for one. Thank you for being so generous with sharing them. And, you know, instantly when we hear things, we relate things back to ourselves. I'm not just the only one doing it, but for this episode, I'm curious about, like, because I need to get the book now and have a little bit of a squiz at that over time. It's exciting, and I want to encourage other people to do that, because I'm sure people watching or listening will go, oh God, like, what am I? Like, tell me who I am. Am I breaking up a little bit there?
Yeah. You're just
cool. That's all good. We're back now.
Right there at the end. There you go.
I just wanted to ask what your way of resting is.
Oh, there you go. You're frozen.
Frozen. No. I have to start singing Frozen. Let it go.
There you go. So you're back?
We're back. Yeah. It might be universe saying, come on.
It's freezing.
Oh. I'm not.
I think you're good now.
Okay. If we can get this through, what is your way of resting, beautiful Shannon? For someone who has such fire, intensity, tenacity, how did that practice of rest come about, and what does that look like for you, either daily or weekly or monthly? I would love to know.
Yeah, so over the last few years, I have radically changed my schedule. Whereas before I would be like, yeah, I'm happy, I'm up early, I'll do a client session. So it's like, no, now I don't start my client work until after 10 in the morning, so that I have decent sleep. I still wake quite naturally early, but I have sleep, and then I can do things like, and I do like to do a journaling practice. I do like to do, a visualization kind of thing. I'll do some training maybe of my own, something that a mental teacher I sign up for, or my coach is doing with me or something. Yeah. I like to exercise in the morning. I have good breakfast. So all of that stuff is done in the morning, and then I show up and do the work stuff, right? And then outside of hours, it's stopping at the end of the day. It's not going, I could easily just keep doing work because I love what I do. It's going, no, time off. And like having some just whatever kind of stuff on TV, or reading a book, or chatting to a friend, like all the different kinds of things. And depending on what time of year it is, I, like you said earlier about loving the water, I'm also a water lover, and I love to stand up paddle boards. So in the months where the weather is conducive for that, I'm out on my board, and that to me is my meditation. That's freedom. And people are like, really? I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah. Stroke in the water with the paddle, like it is meditative to me. So that kind of stuff, and just, you know, spending time with people that I adore, but equally spending time with myself. I very much need time alone as much as I need time with other people. So I listen to my body when it's screaming at me to rest. I pay attention to that now, you know, and just working on letting go of I guess not preconceived, but the things that we've been told as women, that how we have to show up in the world and what we have to do and who we have to be. You know, the older I get, the more I just let that go. I'm like, no, I need to listen to me first, you know, because the version of me that I'm putting out in the world, if I don't do that, is not that fabulous necessarily. Yeah. So, you know, I'm going to honor my own thrive factor, honor my own archetypes, what they desire.
Practice what you preach. And that's something that I love about you. And it's why you would retain clients. You don't just get clients and they're like, oh, well, she's not really sticking through. It's like they can see that you're putting in the work. They can see that you dedicate time, that you're not getting back to them instantly. It's like, no, you know, I don't answer my phone or my emails until this time on this day or whatever it might be. And it's setting those boundaries for someone with certain archetypes that might be inclined to, I'll just quickly get it done now because that way I won't be stressed, or, you know, I don't want them left waiting in the dark. It's like, what do you need first? Fill your own cup, and then you will show up in your most abundant and best version of you self when you get there.
That's it. So, you know, so even this year, as I did like a bit of a visioning session with my business manager, excuse me, and we talked about, you know, how do we do is this a quick yes or a quick no, like with an invitation or something? I was like, if it doesn't contribute to my thriving, it's a no.
Yeah.
Black and white. Yeah.
Love it.
Like that's stronger every year. And with that, it's again, well, what is my definition of thriving? So, you know, I don't need to share that, but that's a really powerful question for us to each ask ourselves. What is my definition of thriving? You know, and what am I willing? This is an amazing question that I heard, not the first time I heard it, won't be the last time, but February 2020, before the world all changed, I was opening keynote speaker at an amazing week-long event in Fiji, women's event called the Ultimate Girls Week Away. Wow. A former client of mine runs this. It's an incredible thing. And the big keynote speaker was Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. So Liz is on stage and she says, like, there's this buzzing room full of women, Lauren, like, you know, all chatty and all this stuff. And she was working us through a workshop. And she says, okay, powerful. Like, I want you to think about this. And the room went silent, waiting for, you know, on every word she's going to drop. But she said, what are you willing to say no to in order to live the life or do the work that you say you are here to do? Again, was another reminder of, okay, what is my redefine, what's my definition of thriving? What am I doing? What am I going to say no to? And saying no to was schedules where other people had more control rather than me, that kind of stuff. So yeah, really important for all of us to be mindful of that kind of stuff. It's not being selfish. I think actually the selflessness of choosing self is actually far more powerful than, you know, going, but I'm being selfish if I'm doing something for me. No, you're not. You're being selfless. So,
totally. Because I think that misconception of the word selfish, like thinking that you're selfish for doing something, and if you're not looking after yourself, leads to so many more problems than actually taking care of you. It leads to things like anger, illness, resentment, frustration, whatever it might be. And I know resentment from my own self, that when I don't speak up and when I don't say no, or if I overcommit, or if I step into that, oh, look after everybody else and make sure everyone else is all good. And then you sit there going like, why isn't anybody helping me? It's like, well, you didn't set that intention. And again, and it's like, you know, in the master manifestor side of archetypes too, when you set a certain intention there, it's like you get exactly what you ask for. So be very mindful of the language and the focus and energy that you're putting into your work, and the way that you're holding yourself, keeping the relationships around you, or managing your own time. It's such a huge and powerful thing, like Shannon explains in her book, which I want anybody listening and watching to get amongst.
Yes. So I think we had a little bit of a tech issue is when you were asking me about where people can find stuff. Yes. So for the Thrive Factor, I've got 2 websites. I rebranded after many years in business. My business was called Creative Possibility. It's now Thrive Factor Co. to bring everything under the Thrive Factor brand.
Yep.
So that where you can find stuff about coaching and stuff with me, but come and hang out with me on social media. So you'll find me on Facebook. I know Lauren's got links and things on Instagram, Shannon_the Thrive Factor. I've got a Facebook group called Ingenious Businesswoman, which again is where we talk about business and Thrive Factor. But for the Thrive Factor stuff, where you can get the link to buy the book, you can, do profiling, you find out about certification, you just find out about all sorts of stuff, is thethrivefactor.com.
Yep.
So if you go to thethrivefactor.com, that's
Yep.
where you can get all that magic stuff. Right now in the world, I can certainly post books in Australia, but the cost to post beyond Australia is prohibitive. So the book therefore is available on Amazon and Book Depository and all the kind of regular online places. But if you are in Australia and you do want a copy and you order from me, I will also send you a deck of the cards.
Oh, so, amazing. And if you're in the west part of Australia, come and visit the pair of us. We'd love to meet up with you. And I know that Shannon would have a busy schedule as I do, but if we're anything similar, I will make time for people who want the time to hang out with like-minded souls, or who are wanting to look to be leaders or to get to their next level of potential, which is like not even next level. It's like already present within you. It's about uncovering the Thrive Factor. And I'm such an advocate for, pardon me, Shannon's work without even having done it, just talking to her, receiving her energy. It's like, that she is walking that talk, she's all about it. She loves what she does. And it's just like, it's infectious being around people like that. I wanted to end with one little question, because normally I ask what's a book or a podcast or something that you've been listening to that you recommend? But what I'm going to actually ask is, do you still follow like Carl Jung's teachings, or like who is your biggest role model or teacher presently for you?
I've never got just one, and this is the joy of being a mentor teacher. There is an abundance of them, so I can't even narrow down just one. But and I dip in and out of stuff. So I said, I've got last year I did an extra diploma in Jungian archetypal psychology. So that's still a present thing, and it's not because I needed to do it again. I was just interested in doing it. I just wanted to refresh my knowledge on that, so I did. I love working with women from all over the world. I love all sorts of different topics. So rather than an actual person or book or podcast or something to follow, it's anything that sparks my inspiration, because I'm an inspirer believer, that makes me feel free, because I'm a Liberator Engineer, that reminds me how wise I am and gives me an opportunity to learn, because I'm a mentor teacher, and is creative, expressive, and visionary, because I'm a visionary creator. So those are the kinds of things that draw my attention, and it's wide and diverse, very diverse.
Yeah, I love that. Let's close with that. I so much appreciate your time, energy, just everything about you. I know that we're going to have much more to do with each other, and I would love to do like a little follow-up episode, like I have said to everyone who's come on the podcast, just to track where you are, whether it's 10 years from now and you've got another Thrive Factor book out there.
We've got 2 manuscripts on the go at the moment, Lauren.
Yes. Oh, amazing. Yes. Yeah. Oh, so incredible.
The next one that should come out later this year is called Braggadocious, and it's about the bold art of self-celebration, Thrive Factor style. So 12 months of looking at, an archetype as a guide and as a support for you to be more in the space of self-celebration. So that's hopefully going to be out later this year, because I'm speaking at an event interstate in November, and I'd like to have it available to, for the women there. So
maybe we could do a little pre-launch.
Love to. Yeah. Love to. Very grateful for you saying, come and chat.
Happy days. I love it. I love learning about people like yourself. I love that connection side. And if we're in the same part of town at the right time, let's make it happen, catch up for a hot drink and just receive each other's energy and what's meant for that moment, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes or 3 hours. I feel like I could chat to you for a whole day, but I don't often have a whole day free.
No, we'll make it happen. I love it. Thank you so much. It's been amazing being here and being able to chat with you. And I don't take lightly the invitation to share my work.
Of course, anytime. And if you know anyone else who is got beautiful work that they want to share, just pass them along. And yeah, it's such an honor to share. I just love it.
Definitely, most definitely. Thank you.
Take care, beauty.